My family consisted of my parents, my older brother, and my two little sisters. We were a large family, but the ranch was so small that we were always together in a limited space. The house we lived in had only two small rooms. One was the bedroom, where we all slept squeezed together, and the other was the kitchen, the place where meals were prepared and where we spent most of our time. Everything was separated by a small hallway, and the bathroom was outside the house, requiring us to walk a few steps in the dark, often guided only by the faint light of a candle. This environment, so far removed from civilization, felt like a refuge but also like a vulnerable place. The isolation became more palpable with each passing day. Every sound, every creak in the night, was amplified. We weren't surrounded by other houses or the people of a nearby town. Life on the ranch was solitary and peaceful, but also dark, with a constant feeling of being on the fringes of the world. This isolated environment, so simple yet so full of mystery, had something that kept me on edge, as if the line between this world and another was much closer than we imagined. In that ranch, it was easy to imagine that something supernatural could happen because everything there seemed suspended in time. The darkness and silence filled the corners with a strange feeling, something that kept us always on guard. Life there, although simple and distant from technology, was also incredibly susceptible to the inexplicable, as if the place were marked by something beyond what we could see. And it was in that atmosphere, in that almost absolute solitude, where something began to happen, something that would change my life forever. As I settled back in to try to sleep, attempting to rationalize what had happened with the door, something began to unsettle me. I heard the sound of the door opening again, but this time, the situation was even more disconcerting. It wasn't like the times my dad would get up in the early hours. I didn't hear footsteps, nor the creaking of the wooden floor, nor the sound of the bathroom. Only that door moving slowly and quietly, as if someone was trying not to be detected. My mind, still somewhat drowsy, couldn't understand what was happening. In that moment, confusion enveloped me. Who was opening that door? It wasn't my dad, nor my brother. Something didn't add up. It was at that precise moment that the mocking laugh of a little girl broke the silence of the night. It wasn't an innocent laugh, nor the laugh of a child playing. That laugh was strange, as if mocking me. The sound coursed through my whole body, and for a second, I froze. The worst part was that, even though my sisters were young, their laugh didn't sound like theirs. I knew it wasn't any of the familiar voices I was used to hearing around the house. Who was that girl? In my mind, a blurry image began to form, as if something were out of place, but I still couldn't pinpoint exactly what it was. Uncertainty took hold of me, and despite being half asleep, something told me not to close my eyes. Something was wrong. I was too aware that this laugh wasn't normal. It wasn't from someone in my family, and in that moment, fear made its presence known. The feeling of being trapped between sleep and wakefulness heightened the confusion, and it became clearer that I wasn't dreaming. What was happening? It was real, and there was no way to explain it. My thoughts were racing as my heart began to beat faster, and for a moment, I didn't know whether it was better to stay there or run. The laughter persisted, as if the girl were playing with me, but I no longer wanted to be part of that game. Unable to fully understand what was happening, a feeling of terror took hold of me. Not only was I surrounded by darkness, but also by something I couldn't see, something I couldn't understand. Who or what was behind that laugh? What did it want? Why was it causing me so much fear? The questions kept coming, but the answers never arrived. The tension in my chest grew stronger, and the silence of the night had become even thicker and heavier. At that moment, without wanting to, I opened my eyes, as if something compelled me to look. And what I saw was something I would never forget. In the middle of the darkness, barely lit by the moonlight that filtered in shyly, I could make out half of a face. Only the left eye was visible, a twisted smile peeking out from behind the door, as if the girl were playing hide-and-seek with me. But she wasn't an ordinary girl, nor was it an innocent game. Everything about her exuded mystery and terror. Her face, in the darkness, seemed more like an illusion than something real. My breath stopped when I realized what I was seeing. The figure was completely strange. I could only see that part of her face, but my entire body reacted with visceral fear. She wasn't my little sister, nor anyone I knew. She was something alien, something that didn't belong to this world. Then, when I realized that what I was seeing wasn't a hallucination, my eyes focused more and I saw that I wasn't looking at a girl standing on the floor, but at a floating figure, hovering several inches above the ground. That vision left no doubt. What I had in front of me wasn't human. I was facing a specter, a being from another world. Terror paralyzed me, and my mind tried to process what was happening, but all I could do was stay there, unable to move. The girl, with her unsettling smile, realized I was looking at her and, as if she were enjoying my fear, slowly closed the door and laughed, that same laugh I had heard before. But what was most disconcerting wasn't just her appearance or the way she played with me. What truly froze my blood was that she was mocking me, not terrified or interested in running. She was playing with the idea that I was completely defenseless. The girl closed the door, and her laughter echoed in my head, as if it were inside me, stalking my thoughts. I knew that in that moment, something beyond the physical was happening. I was realizing that I had no control, that no matter how terrified I was, there was no way to escape what had invaded my reality. The terror didn't stop, and as if the girl were enjoying herself at the expense of my fear, she appeared again, this time more obviously. The door creaked open once more, and there she was, floating in the doorway, staring with her dark eyes. It wasn't a fleeting apparition this time, no. She was playing with me, like a being who enjoys watching its victim trapped in their fear. Every time she closed the door, she made me think she had left, only to return seconds later, repeating the same macabre game. The laughter grew closer, and the anxiety. It accumulated in my chest like a ball of fire. My mind became clouded, and I couldn't understand how, with each appearance, her laugh became more unsettling. But the worst was yet to come. The girl didn't just appear and disappear at the door. She came closer to me. I felt her presence materialize next to my body, and before I could react, she started poking me in the ribs with her small fingers. Each touch was like an electric shock that ran through my body, which not only added an emotional terror but also a physical and palpable sensation that made me feel her closeness. I couldn't move, fear had trapped me like an invisible cage. My screams were muffled, as if my voice couldn't escape. I felt as though I were completely alone, with no one hearing me. My brother, who slept right next to me, didn't even stir. He was there, completely oblivious to my suffering. The fact that no one responded to my screams amplified the feeling of absolute isolation. It was as if I were trapped in a world apart, where my fear didn't matter. And that girl, that supernatural presence, was laughing at me, enjoying my distress as I wished with all my being that this reality was just a nightmare. But it wasn't, and with every passing second, my vulnerability grew. There was no escape, no comfort. Only that girl and her strange laughter. Finally, the sound of my father's voice from inside the house cut through the intensity of my terror. In the darkness, I heard his worried question, "What's wrong?" It was as if something inside me broke, a thread of hope emerging amidst the despair. At that moment, my heart beat stronger than ever, and I could feel the girl's presence beginning to fade. My father got up, and I saw him leave with a lamp in hand, lighting the way down the hallway. That's when, as if by an unspoken pact, the girl disappeared instantly. Her laughter faded, and the pressure on my chest relaxed in the blink of an eye. When my father stepped into the hallway, everything returned to silence. The girl, that terrifying entity that had invaded my world, was no longer there. My mind couldn't comprehend what had just happened. Why did she leave the moment he appeared? It was as if the presence of the adult was enough to dispel the unexplainable. In that moment, I realized that something out of the ordinary had occurred, something that logic couldn't explain. The door had been secured with a wire, something I always did to prevent my sisters from leaving in the middle of the night. Yet, the girl had opened it effortlessly, as if the physical barrier were invisible to her. That detail left me stunned. The feeling that there was something bigger than us in that house that night, something I couldn't understand, was etched in my mind. Even though I was in the warmth of my father's protection, the questions continued to swirl in my head. Who was that girl? Why did she appear at that moment? And why did she leave when my father came in? These questions would remain part of the story, as if everything I had experienced had an answer that would never be deciphered. And although the fear began to dissipate, the echo of that night stayed with me for a long time. After everything that had happened, with the fear still lingering on my skin, I began to reflect on what had occurred. Despite how terrifying everything had been, I couldn't help but think that the girl wasn't evil. Over time, I came to the conclusion that perhaps she wasn't a malicious being, but rather a wandering soul. Maybe her intention wasn't to harm us, but simply to play, as children do, but in a way that we, the living, couldn't understand. Still, her unsettling presence left an indelible mark on my life, one that I couldn't fully explain. To prevent something like that from happening again, my family took measures. From that night on, every time we went to bed, we lit a candle and prayed for the girl's soul. This action wasn't just an attempt to bring peace to the spirit that had disturbed our house, but also a way for us to find comfort in the terrifying experience we had lived through. We knew that, at least in our minds, this was the only way to give her soul rest, and in doing so, bring peace to ourselves. Over the years, that story became a lesson I would never forget. Fear and spirituality are so intertwined that not everything we find terrifying has bad intentions. With that thought, I now feel a bit more at ease, though I'll never forget that night. Finally, I want to thank all of you for listening to me. Thank you for being part of this experience, for allowing me to share something so personal and so strange. If you liked this story or it made you reflect, don't forget to support the channel, subscribe, and share your own stories. I'd be happy to hear them and narrate them. Thank you, and until next time.